Imagine residing in a perfectly acceptable rented apartment. The climate control functions flawlessly, the neighbors remain entirely quiet, and, well, the amenities satisfy every requirement.
Right, you experience absolute comfort in this scenario,
Exactly. You experience absolute comfort, yet every single evening you sit on your sofa and you actively review real estate listings on your phone. You deliberately hope to secure a superior property.
which presents a fascinating contradiction.
I mean, why does someone who feels completely comfortable constantly seek an exit?
Welcome to the Higher Wire podcast.
That tenet mirrors the exact paradox defining the modern workforce today. Employers observe comfortable employees, they see adequate performance, and they mistakenly deduce permanent loyalty.
Today, we establish a precise mission for our analysis. We are examining the April 2026 labor market reports from recruitment industry legend Bob Marshall. Absolutely. We continually appreciate Bob Marshall's great insight and industry expertise in observing complex labor market data.
Right, and interpreting how those numbers directly affect recruiters in the marketplace. We possess a very robust collection of sources for this examination today.
We certainly do. Our materials include the Isolved Employee Satisfaction Survey, ERE's analysis regarding artificial intelligence burnout, Bloomberg's economic report, ADP's employment report, the JOLTS data, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics unemployment figures.
By synthesizing these documents, we will navigate a landscape of hidden job markets, shifting economic realities, and, well, the unintended consequences of artificial intelligence within the recruitment space.
To understand this landscape for you, the listener, we must first examine the current mindset of the candidate pool that recruiters actively navigate.
Right. You might assume employees leave their jobs because they hate their managers or their daily tasks.
Which seems like the logical conclusion.
It does. However, the Isolved survey, released on April 17th, 2026, presents a massive contradiction. The data reveals that 90% of full-time employees report being happy in their current roles.
Oh, wow. 90% is an overwhelmingly high metric.
Furthermore, 73% describe their workloads as entirely manageable.
I mean, those initial numbers project absolute stability.
Yeah.
If you manage a team and you see a 90% happiness metric, you naturally assume your retention strategy functions perfectly.
Precisely.
However, the subsequent data completely shatters that illusion. Despite that 90% satisfaction rate, 58% of those same employees plan to apply for new jobs in the next 12 months.
Wait, truly, over half of them.
Yes. Even more alarming for employers, 56% have already applied for external positions during the past year.
This returns us directly to my original analogy regarding the rented apartment. The tenant enjoys the environment, but they remain actively engaged in the marketplace.
Exactly. The employees do not flee toxic environments. Rather, they experience what the survey labels stagnation fatigue.
Stagnation fatigue, that is a fascinating term.
It is. They seek continuous growth rather than escaping immediate dissatisfaction. The specific motivations validate this desire for momentum. Among those applying externally, 58% desire higher pay,
Right.
while 51% desire career advancement.
We must analyze the false equivalence between satisfaction and loyalty here. Employers fundamentally misread silence as retention.
Absolutely. When an organization observes an employee completing tasks quietly and effectively, management assumes that individual remains securely anchored to the company.
But the reality proves entirely different, does it not?
It does. People simply exercise greater selectivity regarding their next professional destination. They remain silent because they have no immediate crisis, but, they actively evaluate their options.
Right. And furthermore, operational failures severely compromise this fragile loyalty. The data indicates 65% of workers face scheduling challenges,
That represents a significant operational failure.
and 53% would resign over payroll errors.
I completely understand that reaction. A payroll error destroys the foundational trust between an employer and an employee.
It absolutely severs that trust. When you combine operational friction with a lack of communication, the desire to explore external opportunities intensifies rapidly.
Right, because only 25% of employees state their employer communicates clearly.
We observe a workforce demanding distinct boundaries, with 44% naming clear boundaries during off hours as the primary method to reduce exhaustion.
I mean, this desire for professional momentum does not exist in a vacuum. We must connect this overwhelming candidate desire for higher pay directly to the current macroeconomic pressures outlined in our economic reports.
That transition is essential.
Because the candidate mindset directly reflects the financial realities they experience daily.
Right. The Bloomberg report from April 29, 2026 details a highly complex economic environment. First quarter gross domestic product advanced by 2.2%.
On the surface, that growth signals a healthy economy.
It does. But the underlying components of that growth reveal severe vulnerabilities.
Exactly. The United States economy grows increasingly reliant on government and business spending. Consumer spending, which typically drives economic health, advanced a mere 1.4%.
And we must mention the inflation data.
We must. And before we detail this data, we want to clarify to you, the listener, that we impartially report the content provided in these documents. We do not endorse any political viewpoints regarding global conflicts. We merely convey the economic facts documented by Bloomberg.
Absolutely. We remain completely impartial. The data simply highlights severe inflation driven by the ongoing conflict involving Iran. Gasoline prices surged in March by the highest margin on record.
And food prices continue rising as war-related disruptions affect global fertilizer supply chains.
I mean, when essential commodities become significantly more expensive, the average worker feels an immediate contraction in their household budget.
They absolutely do. The ADP National Employment Report from May 6, 2026 contextualizes exactly how this inflation influences the labor market.
Right.
Annual pay for workers who remained in their current positions rose by 4.4%.
Right.
Conversely, pay for job changers increased by 6.6%.
I must challenge that logic momentarily.
Please do.
If inflation and global conflict create such profound economic uncertainty, well, why do candidates feel secure enough to risk their current stability for a new position?
It seems counterintuitive.
It does. Traditional economic theory suggests uncertainty breeds a desire for immediate safety.
We rely entirely on Bob Marshall's industry expertise to explain this precise phenomenon.
Right.
Bob Marshall's great insight demonstrates how inflation functions as a catalyst for movement rather than a deterrent. Remaining in a static role during a period of high inflation results in a functional decrease in purchasing power.
Because the cost of living outpaces the annual merit increase.
Exactly. When a worker receives a 4.4% raise from their current employer, but inflation exceeds that percentage, the worker effectively loses money by staying loyal.
Oh, wow. So loyalty becomes a financial penalty.
It truly does. Candidates do not change jobs despite the economic uncertainty. They become job changers to maintain their standard of living because of the economic uncertainty.
I see.
They require that 6.6% premium just to preserve their current lifestyle.
Since economic sources compel candidates to seek new positions merely to maintain their purchasing power, our analysis must shift to identifying exactly where the hiring demand exists.
That is the crucial next step.
The Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, known as the JOLTS report, documents 6.9 million published job openings in March 2026.
We must highlight Bob Marshall's great insight regarding this specific metric, as it changes the entire perspective of the recruitment industry.
It entirely changes the perspective.
Those 6.9 million published openings represent only 20% of the available jobs in the marketplace.
Wait, only 20%?
Exactly. The remaining 80% constitute a massive hidden job market.
A hidden job market implies organizations possess active hiring needs, but deliberately avoid advertising them publicly. Why would a company conceal an open position?
Organizations conceal positions for numerous strategic reasons. They might need to replace an underperforming executive confidentially.
Right.
They might wish to avoid reviewing thousands of unqualified resumes generated by internet job boards. They might lack the internal human resources capacity to process massive applicant volumes.
I understand. Therefore, these positions remain unpublished and require networking or dedicated recruiters to fill.
Precisely. If we apply Bob Marshall's calculation, the actual total equals 34.5 million job orders available in the economy.
That number is staggering. The ADP data provides further clarity regarding the origin of these hidden positions. Private employers added 109,000 new jobs in April 2026.
And the distribution of those jobs is the most important factor.
It is. Strikingly, 62% of these new positions, representing 67,000 jobs, originated exclusively from small and mid-sized establishments.
Right.
I have a specific question regarding this. Does the overwhelming job creation in small and mid-sized businesses indicate that large corporations pause their hiring to fund the massive artificial intelligence investments mentioned in the Bloomberg report?
The Bloomberg data absolutely confirms large corporations allocate enormous capital toward artificial intelligence infrastructure.
Which suppresses their immediate headcount expansion.
Exactly. However, regarding the recruitment sector, we must quote Bob Marshall's specific assertion. Small and medium-sized clients have historically functioned as the primary foundation for contingency recruiters.
Because they lack massive internal recruiting departments?
Right. These organizations remain the most nimble entities within a complex labor environment. Because they lack those internal departments, they rely heavily on external agency partners.
That makes perfect sense.
Bob Marshall's industry expertise validates that recruiters must concentrate their efforts on these smaller organizations as they consistently generate the majority of viable, actionable job orders.
We encounter a fascinating contradiction here, though.
How so?
Well, with tens of millions of hidden jobs available across these nimble organizations, the high national unemployment figures appear entirely contradictory.
Ah, yes.
We must resolve this paradox for you, the listener, because understanding this dynamic defines successful recruitment strategy. The April 2026 Bureau of Labor Statistics data reports the regular U3 unemployment rate at 4.3%.
And the broader U6 measurement presents an even more severe picture, resting at 8.2%.
The U6 measurement includes marginally attached workers and individuals working part-time for economic reasons, correct?
Yes, these individuals desire full-time employment but cannot secure it. Furthermore, the labor force participation rate fell to 61.8%.
Meaning massive segments of the population completely ceased seeking employment.
Right. Reading that national data projects a narrative of severe economic distress and abundant available labor. You would assume recruiters have millions of desperate applicants available.
But they do not.
They do not. Bob Marshall's granular analysis of this exact data reveals an entirely different reality for the professional recruitment sector.
Because when we segment the data by education and profession, the narrative changes entirely.
It completely inverts. The unemployment rate for management and professional workers stands at merely 2.2%.
Only 2.2%.
And for college-degreed workers, the rate is 2.8%.
To understand why a 2.2% unemployment rate challenges recruiters so severely, we must introduce Milton Friedman's concept of the natural rate of unemployment.
Often labeled NIRU.
Right. This economic principle establishes that an unemployment rate of 4 to 6% represents absolute full employment within a healthy economy.
Because that 4 to 6% accounts for natural transitions.
Exactly, such as individuals relocating or temporarily pausing their careers. Therefore, when a demographic falls below that 4% threshold, the available talent pool essentially vanishes entirely.
Precisely. At 2.2%, zero surplus labor exists. Every competent professional in that demographic already holds a secure, well-compensated position.
Sourcing candidates in this specific professional demographic equates to persuading a homeowner to sell a house they have not listed on the market.
Rather than simply selecting a property from available inventory.
Absolutely. The recruiter cannot browse a catalog of active applicants. They must contact a perfectly satisfied individual, likely experiencing the stagnation fatigue we discussed earlier, and convince them to initiate a massive life disruption.
Your analogy captures the profound difficulty of the profession. We must emphasize Bob Marshall's conclusion regarding these statistics.
We definitely should.
For the demographics recruiters target, the unemployment rate is effectively zero. Therefore, recruiters remain absolutely essential to the modern economy.
Because organizations cannot simply post an advertisement and wait for top talent to apply.
Right. Recruiters must proactively attract candidates who are already successful, well-compensated, and actively employed.
Precisely because no surplus talent exists in these highly skilled categories.
To locate and attract these passive, highly employed candidates, recruiters rely heavily on advanced technology. They need sophisticated systems to identify the tenant who secretly wants a new apartment.
Unfortunately, this technological reliance introduces a severe new occupational hazard.
It does indeed.
Amazon announced an agentic artificial intelligence product named Amazon Connect Talent on April 29, 2026. This system conducts voice interviews, administers psychological assessments, and scores candidates automatically.
It functions continuously without human intervention.
Exactly, completing the entire initial screening process independently.
The April 22 ERE article examines the psychological toll of these rapid technological advancements, analyzing a phenomenon termed AI burnout.
The promise of automation always involved reducing manual tasks to provide professionals more time for high-value strategic activities.
Right. Technologists promised that eliminating administrative burden would liberate the human worker.
However, as artificial intelligence successfully automates lower effort tasks like scheduling, resume screening, and initial candidate outreach, the composition of the recruiter's workday changes fundamentally.
And not necessarily for the better.
No, not for the better. Because the machine assumes all the simple tasks, recruiters are left exclusively with highly intense, cognitively demanding work.
They spend their entire day executing complex compensation negotiations, handling severe candidate objections, and aligning multiple executive stakeholders who possess conflicting hiring visions.
I must ask, are organizations inadvertently penalizing recruiters for the efficiency of artificial intelligence by packing their entire schedule with high-stakes mental tasks?
The research on cognitive load demonstrates exactly that dynamic.
Yeah.
Cognitive capacity within the human brain is completely finite.
Scholars like John Sweller and Daniel Kahneman proved that sustained mental effort leads to severe decision fatigue.
Absolutely. When organizations implement artificial intelligence, they frequently reduce overall headcount, assuming all work hours require equal energy.
Which is a massive miscalculation.
It is. They assume a human being can negotiate salaries for 8 consecutive hours simply because the machine handles the scheduling.
But the human brain requires contrast. A week containing a mixture of simple administrative tasks and complex negotiations allows the brain to recover.
Right. An hour spent organizing a spreadsheet provides a necessary cognitive rest between intense stakeholder meetings.
The data supports that entirely. A week containing nothing but intense high-stakes negotiations accelerates mental exhaustion rapidly.
The volume of total work might remain identical to previous years, but the intensity becomes entirely unsustainable. You eliminate the administrative valleys, leaving only the psychological peaks.
The consequences of this sustained cognitive strain directly harm the hiring process itself. Organizations observe slower final decisions, weaker candidate evaluations, and increasingly strained relationships with hiring managers.
Because when a recruiter experiences severe decision fatigue, they lose the empathy and sharpness required to convince that passive candidate to accept a new role.
The ERE article outlines necessary structural solutions to combat this phenomenon. Organizations must redesign the recruitment role entirely,
They absolutely must. They must mandate structured cognitive pauses.
which means moving beyond merely permitting lunch breaks.
Right. They must actively institutionalize mental recovery periods throughout the day. A cognitive pause means disconnecting from all screens and all candidate evaluations to let the neurological system reset.
Most importantly, corporate leadership must recognize that mental fatigue directly weakens candidate evaluation and decision-making capabilities.
You cannot optimize human psychology using the same principles you use to optimize server efficiency.
As we conclude this analysis, we must summarize the core narrative presented within these exceptional documents. Bob Marshall's April 2026 reports construct a precise picture of a highly complex economy.
Top candidates demand continuous professional growth and financial advancement to combat the severe effects of global inflation.
Right. They might appear satisfied, but they constantly evaluate their options. Furthermore, massive hidden job markets exist primarily within nimble, small, and mid-sized businesses.
Requiring highly skilled professionals to uncover them.
Concurrently, artificial intelligence shifts the entire psychological burden of the recruiting profession.
By automating the administrative foundations, technology demands unprecedented cognitive endurance from industry professionals.
Right. Forcing them to function continuously at the absolute highest level of human negotiation and influence.
We must reiterate Bob Marshall's industry expertise as the guiding force behind understanding these intricate data connections.
Absolutely. His ability to synthesize broad macroeconomic indicators with the daily realities of the recruitment profession provides an invaluable framework for navigating this modern landscape.
It truly does.
We leave you with a final provocative thought to consider independently. As artificial intelligence successfully automates all objective candidate evaluation, all scheduling, and all initial screening, will the recruitment profession of the future abandon administrative tasks entirely to become a pure exercise in applied psychology and human connection?
That is a profound consideration.
We return to the tenant comfortably residing in the rented apartment. The machine can locate the tenant. The machine can assess the tenant's financial qualifications.
The machine can even schedule the property viewing.
However, perhaps only a human being possesses the empathy, the intuition, and the persuasive capability required to convince that perfectly comfortable tenant to finally pack their belongings and embrace the uncertainty of a new destination.